Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Line Change, the NHL betting podcast from the Action Network. My name is Michael Leboff, and joining me for this, our Stanley Cup Final Game 6 preview are Nick Martin and Tim Kalinowski. Tim is fresh back from Sunrise. He was in the building along with the Stanley Cup for Game 5. The Stanley Cup is heading to Alberta to be in the building again. Tim is not. Let's set up this Game 6, though. Another elimination game. Edmonton's won 2 on the spin. They're now down 3-2 in the series. They are minus 120 favorites at home in Game 6. Panthers are even money underdogs. Total is 5.5. The series line is now down to minus 375 for Florida, and the Oilers are plus 290. We'll get to picks and stuff, but I think I want to set it up like this, which is we're now looking at a series where I feel like the war of attrition is truly evident. I think you could see it. The numbers probably bear it out. We're looking at two teams that are, I think, for Florida, maybe half the team is like still operating at better than 60%. I think the Oilers is much closer to like 7 or 8 players that are operating at that level. Maybe I'm way off base here, but I think that's thrown in some funky games, and it's forced these contests to be decided by individual moments of brilliance or just like weird stuff happening. And I'm not just talking about McDavid, but like the Connor Brown play to open the scoring in Game 5 too. It just feels so much more disjointed. I think that helps Edmonton. But at the same time, do we think that the way that they played in Game 5 is a sustainable method here, where it's a couple power play goals, you get the shorty, McDavid magic, Skinner plays really well, and I don't want to say they were pummeled at 5-on-5, but as the game went on, like the Panthers were starting to really sink their claws into it. So Nick, like I think if you looked at this game in a vacuum with almost trying to ignore that stuff leading into it, I feel like I would lean towards Florida at anything better than plus money. But the problem is that we have all this kind of stuff going on. So it's such a fun one to handicap. I do have some plays, but in terms of like just the strict money lines, I feel like this is a classic. If you whatever side I pick is going to lose.
Yeah, I think so too. I just want to watch it. I really want to see 7. This series has been unreal. That last game had to be one of the games of the year. And you talk about, the Panthers turning it on and really getting going at even strength. It felt like they were going to tie that in the third for a while. But that's been every team in this game. That's been every game in this series. The team that's been down has really turned it on and pressed hard. So it feels like you can't even read that much into that, because there's been so little time where the games have been close, and it feels like it's just been a lot of one team kind of gets up. I guess the Game 4 is a little different, with the Oilers really running away with it and the Panthers really just kind of conceding that one. But other than that, it feels like they've both had a lot of moments at even strength. I'm with you. I think, I don't think you want to go that far. I've seen people saying the Oilers are a lock in this game. I think that's kind of idiotic. I think the Panthers have more to give. I kind of buy into what Sam Bennett said and I don't think you want to go too far down the lines of the pressure or anything like that. I just think at this point, we know when the Panthers play their A game, they're going to be able to, make this into a really tough win for the Oilers to get. So I'm not really that interested in sides. The side I'm most interested in, if I was going to play something close to a side, would be overtime, is that plus 340. I think that this is a fun one for that. They've been closer. Last game, it felt like we were going to get there. I think we'll see both teams bring a really solid effort. I think this one's going to be pretty even score lines throughout. So I wouldn't be surprised if this is the one that creeps towards overtime. So that's kind of my first bet I want to sprinkle on there, is backing this one to get past regulation.
Yeah, I mean, Leboff, it's funny when you said the attrition thing, I thought of our pal Jeff Merrick, and he always talks about how his favorite round's the first round, and he actually, doesn't love the Stanley Cup final because, by then so many people are banged up, and maybe I'm just stupid, but I feel like I always forget that happens until we arrive here. And it really did feel that way watching. I mean, Draisaitl has been on a milk carton for a while now. We had him leading series goal scorer, all sorts of, Draisaitl love. So to see him in that form, and I mean, I know you mistake Ryan for him all the time, Leboff. Or Connor Brown.
Connor Brown, yeah.
Connor Brown, yeah.
And you know what? On that Draisaitl point, we gave that pick out so long ago with the way this series has been spaced out that I completely forgot that we were talking about how he was a great bet to lead the series in goals. I was like, was that this series or the Star series? Because this thing's been going on for so long.
Oh, it's so true. It feels like a WWE match, like, and there's like just Royal Rumble and there's just two healthy guys left. It's like who's not banged up right now. There's one thing, and Nick, I know you'll probably touch on. I don't want to steal your thunder here. There's really only one thing we do know, and it's that Connor McDavid is the man, and certainly when we're talking about the Conn Smythe betting. So I know we'll get there, and I want to hear your spiel on that because the odds moving on that has been a story in of itself. But in terms of the early look at the game here, I wanted to bet into those unders late in series. But then I was scared away because I realized and looked it up that the Oilers at home this playoffs, the over in Oilers home games this playoffs 8-2-1. So that scares me a little bit. Scares me for the first period as well for what they're capable of. So the total, I don't really want to touch the game. I'm sorry, it's really tough. I would lean Florida. But I want to go with our guy Lomberg. I thought he was good in the first period of game 5, and then he didn't play much as the game went on because Florida was chasing, a lot of 4-on-4, special teams, stuff like that. But I think he's a nice little pooch, as Leboff would say, for a long shot to score a goal, first goal, possibly just a flutter.
Just a flutter. Before we get into we'll do the Conn Smythe at the end because it's important conversation to have. I'm seeing this similarly to you, Nick. I do think overtime is good. I think that you can play the 0-0 again in the first period. I'll definitely be playing that as well. And I also think that this is the type of game, if you look back at the series, it sounds counterintuitive because we've seen an 8-1 scoreline. We just saw a 4-3 back and forth where the Oilers had a couple 3-0 3-goal leads. We've seen a 3-0, like a team get shut out, the Oilers no less. So we've already seen a really wide range of outcomes. This game does not feel like it has a wide range of outcomes at all to me. It feels like it's going to be a very tight, like stodgy kind of soccer match almost, where you're looking at something 2-2. I think is a correct score. It'll probably be pretty short compared to like other correct score bets, and these aren't the type of bets that you want to go withdraw money from your savings account to make. But I do think that these kind of it's going to look more traditional, I guess is the way to put it. Traditional score line, 2-2 after 60 minutes, 3-1 if you want to go that way. That's how I'm going to do it. So I think an overtime bet, maybe an exact score 2-2. But my favorite bet, as I said, I'm going to be on that 0-0 first period again, because I think this thing has all the makings for a tight one. Honestly, Nick, you're someone who plays this all the time in the regular season. Feels like one where no regulation goal scored could also be interesting. Because like to me, it feels like there's just going to be heaps and heaps and heaps of pressure on everybody. I'm trying to think of there was a game between the Rangers and Panthers is the one I'm thinking of. Late in was it game 5 where it was 1-1 late, like it feels like that, or even the first game between those two teams, game 1 between the Rangers and Panthers, which ended essentially 1-0. I mean, the Panthers got a late one, but that's how I look at it. I think this thing is going to be both teams working really hard to get anything. I expect the goalies to, Bobrovsky to his level to raise a little bit. Skinner's been great, so that's those are the angle, that's the path I'm walking down here, and I'll make all my bets off of that path.
Yeah, I like the 2-2. I kind of like 3-3. I think I'm there with you. I think it's going to be really tight, and I expect tight or close score lines. I don't know if I can get there on our usual total bets on this lower scoring stuff. I'm not going to bet the over. I'm not there, but I can see the arguments. I think just with the way the strengths and weaknesses of the Oilers right now, I feel like it's maybe a little tough to get that low, but we'll see. And then the one prop, there's a couple I like here, and we'll see if I end up with more in the app, and hopefully try to post them nice and early this time, is I like Connor Brown again. I think he's still plus 900 to score. he's been one of the best players in this series. And I know he doesn't have the greatest finishing touch, but it feels like a big part of that number is almost still how horrible he's been all season long, and how like it's crazy to me that we're in the cup final here, and I think that it's worth going back to back on Connor Brown. But he's been really, really good in this series, and I wonder if he's almost been one of the guys who's managed to get to this point less nicked up than others. And, you know, he was coming off a huge knee surgery. It took him a long time to get skating this year. And now it feels like he's really, really moving, and they're using him more and more. So I feel like he's actually one of the better long shots on the board. And then the other one, I think shots are just going to continue to stay pretty low scoring. So I'm close on Skinner to go under his save prop, because I kind of think whether the Oilers play great here or not, 26.5 looking fairly high with how I think this game is going to go at this point. And then the other one I like is Reinhart to go under 2.5 at plus 115. I think that's a solid look. I feel like he's been trending a lot lower with shots. He's not looking overly dominant. I think he's been really reliant on getting some tough passes into the bumper there. So I think that one's a little high as well.
I think the hardest thing for me, Lieboff, and how you guys are touching on how you see it being tight, or you can see what the outcomes, could be at least around in terms of the total goals. But we're really beholden to the whistle, in my opinion, for what we get in this game. I was kind of shocked about the way Game 5 was called. And it feels like power plays either way is advantage Edmonton. Even 4-on-4, Paul Maurice has been adamant that that's advantage Edmonton too. So that part of it is what gives me some concern here when we're looking at the total. And it's, I would love, if you could know one stat going into Game 6 for me, I want to know the whistle, because it had so much to do with the way the variance that is caused in these games. Because otherwise, you're right. I think the neutral zone's clogged. I think I was really impressed with the way Edmonton defended late in that game. Even when Florida was really pushing the play, I felt like Edmonton was still making them earn the middle of the ice. So it was impressive on there, and for a defense core that has definitely taken a beating this playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a good point. It's really, I think it was clear early in the series, and this is the Panthers' MO. They're, like, I think probably the best forechecking team in the league, them and Carolina. But it feels like more than ever they're really reliant on getting some of these breakdowns like below the goal line from the Oilers. And if they don't, the chances are going to be relatively middling, which, again, it's not like I can say for sure that the Oilers are going to not offer those up. But it does feel like now that they've eliminated those, their defensive play is looking a little more reasonable. Their underlying results were pretty reasonable from the first couple games, have been good all postseason.
And that has caused turnovers. That has caused turnovers with Florida getting stuck kind of, below Edmonton's goal line, right? I feel like that was a lot of Game 5 was, Florida having some time and space below the goal line. Edmonton just keeps it steady between goaltender and the puck. And all of a sudden it's going the other way with McDavid leading the rush, and guys have to back check a full 200. So that's, maybe that's been an adjustment on Edmonton's part that they deserve some credit for.
Yeah. And the other thing you look at, are the Panthers going to continue to struggle this badly to defend off the rush? They reeled it in as the last game went on, but I think it's been surprising there. And that's obviously one of the big cases for them, is it feels like they've, as great as the Oilers have been, they probably haven't had their two best games in the ones they've lost. So I think this all just goes back to our points that I'm not seeing a side that I'm feeling overly confident with at all.
Okay. So let's talk Conn Smythe. It's to me, it's bizarre. This has been a crazy kind of Conn Smythe market, and the market's already crazy enough. And I don't see how that Connor McDavid isn't in coronation territory at this point. Like, I don't understand it at all, honestly. I know the argument is that we haven't seen a Conn Smythe winner from the losing team in a Stanley Cup since Jean-Sébastien Giguère in 2003 for that just monster season. And one of the most iconic images in hockey is him crying with the Conn Smythe because he just lost a absolute slobber knocker of a Stanley Cup final. The one where Paul Kariya got knocked out by Scott Stevens. What a final that was. McDavid's minus 150. Barkov is the second favorite now at plus 225. His game has dropped. Bobrovsky's game has dropped. He's plus 550. And then, it's not even worth getting into it. Matthew Tkachuk is now the fourth favorite. He was 500 to 1 before game 5. He's now 50 to 1. Am I crazy though? Like, it's the voting system for the Conn Smythe is weird. Like, nobody really seems to know. It sounds like there's like 18 voters that do pick. There
is
a lot 18. Of the. It's 18, and then like a lot of them are on podcasts, and they like try not to say who they're like leaning towards right now. Some do. The ones who I hear like I've heard from, it sounds like everybody is thinking along the same lines as me here, which is it's really, really hard to see Connor McDavid not winning the Conn Smythe almost no matter how the game goes on Friday night. Should we all just be like getting into this? Like it's I'm not saying this is like Mayweather McGregor territory, right? Where there was a ton of crazy money and on McGregor that kept the Mayweather price in range for everybody. And it was about as good a betting opportunity as you'll ever find in your life. But I'm not saying it's that far away from that. Is that a stretch, Nick? Is like, am I getting a little too carried away? Because the more I think about it, the less I think I'm crazy for saying this stuff. And I really, we try so hard to like tone that kind of talk down, not just on this podcast, but across all Action Network content. And I'm not going in that direction, but it feels like a really good bet even at minus 150.
Yeah. I mean, I had someone ask me today, and it was a very pleasant person because my advice that I had given out about Bobrovsky last game was terrible. It was just terrible. I didn't think the game would go that way. I thought there was a really good chance that it would be low scoring. Can't believe that McDavid just rattled off that game. But it feels, he was asking if it's a lock, and I said, I don't think I'd be comfortable going with lock, but it feels like it would take a really good game from Barkov or Bobrovsky to steal it back. So we'll see. I think at this point, McDavid is kind of the rightful winner. I don't know if I necessarily ever even disagreed with that. I think I just underrated the chance that we'd actually get to this point. And you know what I mean? It feels like that one game was enough to make everyone realize like, okay, well, the series is 3-2 now. He really has been the most important probably out of all of them, especially when you look at the way you have to argue about the Florida guys. And then you look at the Edmonton side and it's like this one guy has just, era adjusted. I saw today, this is the best postseason in terms of productivity ever, which doesn't surprise me given that some of those years games had betting totals of 8 and 8.5. You know what I mean? Like it's crazy. And then the other thing, while we're kind of on this that I guess is actionable, is I did see a boost. I'm sure the limit's pretty low, but it was on FanDuel. It was McDavid to win the cup, the Panthers to win the cup, McDavid to win the con. And it was a boost. I think it was plus 160. I'm sure the limit's low, but for ones like that, generally they're always plus EV if they're boosted that much. And I do think that one is. But yeah, it feels like he's got to be pretty far ahead, right? Like
I think the hardest part about the bet is that, crazy enough, that the series didn't end after game 5. Like, you know what I mean? Because if the Panthers came back, unless it was Barkov twice or 3 times, that game being, talk about coronation leave-off, was the McDavid coronation game. Like, it was almost like I wish we could have handed it out right there Tuesday night and not have everyone like wait until Friday. Because, it's almost like I don't want more time to go by for anything to happen.
That's the thing that scares me off saying something like lock. And who knows how accurate odds makers have been on this. Like I saw in the NBA, Tatum was minus 550 with like in the fourth quarter and Brown went on to win. So interesting anecdote there, I'd say. But so who knows how accurate they've been in adjusting them. But that's what scares me off a little bit from saying like lock or anything like that, because it does seem like a really good Bob game or a really good Barkov game. If the Panthers win 6, maybe that's still enough.
Yeah.
But
Well, how
and then
about
the
this?
other,
Sorry, if we talk about the word lock and all that sort of stuff, there's a minus 150 out there. Other places I even see as high as like minus 225. So what should it be? Like, is it minus 500? Is it a 0 next to minus 500? Like, is it?
No.
It feels like it.
Not
I'm surprised that like
but
minus 225 is the high water mark is what I'm seeing right now, and it's hard. It's hard to like gather all the odds for this kind of market because it varies state by state, all that stuff. I'm kind of shocked, and maybe we'll see it really shorten up as we get closer to puck drop. But I would think in my head I would have thought he'd be like, by the time everyone kind of came to grips with what he did and where we're going and the discourse post game and the media people talking about it and all the think pieces written about it, that by this point when we've been recording, I was like, he's probably going to be like minus 350. So it's lagging that. And like Nick said, like a Sergei Bobrovsky 39 save game 6 win makes you really nervous if you're betting big on it. So no, it's not a lock, and it's not Mayweather McGregor, but like it's a funny conversation now because I feel like we're getting to the point where it's almost, I hate saying this, but it's not criminal. It's like it's just so wrong if he doesn't win it, right? It's just wrong. It's flat out wrong is what it is, right? Like, it's the most valuable player in the playoffs. He's clearly the most valuable player in the playoffs. Like, I don't think anybody even close at this point. But that doesn't matter.
So if you bet it for, let's just say a unit or two, okay? How about your little tickle hedge then is Bob 35 plus saves is one, and then a Barkov 2+ goals or 3.
We're getting,
because I know we're getting crazy here. I know it's like a rabbit hole, but in terms of we're just trying to lay out what it has to go right the other way, wrong for McDavid for it to happen.
But
and
also, just
the paths.
It just speaks to what these awards markets are and why they're both fun and frustrating to bet. Is like, everybody knows who the MVP of the playoffs is. Everybody knows who it is, but he just might not win. That's crazy.
Yeah, hopefully. I mean, at this point, I have a worse position on McDavid, but I could live with it because I do like watching things like this go the way I think they're supposed to. And then, so the last note that I was going to say, and I'll just throw this out there on like the boost thing, is I don't know if our regular listeners know this, but I can't use FanDuel in Alberta, so I'm always looking at this stuff just to post. So if I get something like that wrong, keep in mind that it's really annoying for me to look at where I live. But the other thing that I was going to say from kind of like the, let's keep the odds fair in this, especially if there's a lot of people, betting on the final that are always betting on it. A lot of people have been playing these Bouchard and McDavid to break the records props. I've been asked about them. I've seen them. They're popular. And they're not like, just play those guys to get, especially Bouchard right now, just play those guys to get 3 points in both games. Play McDavid to get 4 points in both games. Because even McDavid to get 3 in this game, which will probably be a popular bet, and I wouldn't talk anyone out of it, is still, what was it? I just had it up. It was, I think, plus 240. So by the time you roll that over on the next game, you're just going to want to go ahead and do that instead of playing him to break the record on the price they give you.
Yeah, I see 255 right here.
Especially with Bouchard. Like 6 points in 2 games as a D is what, like 80-1? It's 8-1 in this game. And then you're going to get a longer number in game 7. So
that's
keep that in mind.
Lubo Wisnowski, prime New York Islanders territory.
Before Wilson ran into him.
Yeah, before Wilson ruined his life. All right. Good. I'm glad that we got that all out of us. I'm happy you brought up the Boston Celtics guy. who won the
Tatum.
MVP. Yeah, because I saw a lot of that going on, and I was like, it's so funny that this is going to be a thing that people are going to be discussing for a couple of days, and like I think that the conversation about this McDavid thing is, from a betting standpoint, just driving me up a wall because I feel like I'm going crazy. And congratulations to those who bet the 7-1 that we were talking about before Game 5. That one of the really shrewd bet on your part if you did that. Okay.
Congratulations on the closing line value first.
Yes.
That's not the other half yet. Okay, just the closing line value.
Okay. Let's before we get out of here, just quickly, if you had to give a best bet before Game 6, I don't care if it is Conn Smythe, whatever it's going to be, what would it be, Tim?
Oh, shoot. All right. I'm going to go with the Lamborghini, anytime goal scorer, Ryan Lomberg, 14-1 I'm looking at right now. Yeah, I think he's due, baby.
I love it. That's our guy.
One game off from scoring was too many for him. I'm going to go with regulation tie. I think it's going to be really close to getting home for us.
All right, and I'll go with the first period to end 0-0, plus 340, maybe this. So 360 before the Game 5 as well. So,
Nick, I think second place there for you is that Skinner under 26.5 saves. I really like that look. I bet it as we were talking here. So I was thinking you were going to go that direction. That's why I had to.
Well, it sounds like a good endorsement from Tim. Yeah.
Better hope the game doesn't go to overtime in that case.
Yeah,
that's part of it. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, that does it for Game 6. We'll see. Maybe we'll be back again for Game 7, which I believe was a couple weeks from now if it happens, because the way this thing's gonna be spaced out. But you'll hear from us regardless whether it's Game 7 or a draft preview. We'll be back at least one more time before shutting it down. But thank you again for listening and rating, reviewing, subscribing. Thank you to producer Noah for all the hard work on the back end, and good luck to everybody for Game 6 on Friday night.